It's Wednesday, my dudes, and we've got something very special planned today. I've got a huge announcement. I'm now a game streamer. I'm no longer making music. Just kidding. This was this really awesome mini game that I found inside Faceplant just while messing around with it. So I figured while we wait for some people to join the chat and everything, we're going to try to get a high score here. I noticed that we've got one of the sound designers from Faceplant in the chat. That's so cool that you could join us. Thank you so much, Navi Retlav. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And thank you to everyone else who's joining us in the chat. If you've got any questions about the synth so long, maybe just pop them in the chat and I'll try to address them. I've actually got like a whole list. The synth is so damn deep. I've actually got a whole list of stuff that I actually want to start to go through in this live stream, and I figured a stream would probably actually be sort of a good idea because I can kind of engage with you guys in the chat, the kind of stuff that you want to see in the synth. You know, often I'll do like a synth demo video and there'll be all these comments like, oh, you didn't show this or you didn't show that. So yeah, let me know if there is something. Oh no, I'm going to miss this row. Oh no. I lost. What a great way to waste time instead of finishing projects. I love this. This is exactly what I need. More ways to procrastinate. Let me not lose this one here. Goodbye productivity. In 2019, we have an incredibly advanced synth that has a cool mini game in it. Okay, so I don't see any question. I'm selling my Pigments license if someone is interested. Well, the crazy thing is, like, I see a lot of guys already comparing in the comments to stuff like Serum and Falcon and stuff that I've already spoken about on my channel. And I think Falcon is particularly unique in that, you know, obviously, like, it does compete quite heavily with Faceplant because, you know, Faceplant attempts to kind of like take sort of hybrid synthesis, you know, sampling and wavetabling and all that stuff to kind of the next level. Similar thing to kind of like what Falcon is trying to do, but I think Falcon is a lot deeper. I don't think their focus was as much on sort of workflow and intuitiveness. Uh-oh, I'm gonna die. As much as Faceplant. Oh no. Dead. Okay, so that's enough of this. So yeah, as I was saying, I think Falcon's kind of focus is more on the kind of like really high-end algorithms in terms of like the granular stuff, resampling and that kind of stuff, as well as like the physical modeling and that kind of thing. I haven't quite found other plugins that nail that side of things quite yet. Faceplant, on the other hand, does a lot of kind of audio rate modulation stuff that a lot of other plugins that I haven't that I've used I haven't seen yet. So I guess you could say they're competitors, but it also kind of depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for something that you're going to kind of jump into and quickly make a sound, then Faceplant is probably going to be a better option. Whereas if you're looking for something to really dive deep in, and if you're looking for something to kind of study and really learn the in-depth ins and outs, and really take things to the next level, I would say Falcon is a good option, but it does take an incredibly steep learning curve. Whereas Faceplant is kind of like the nemesis of that, I would say. There's almost no learning curve. It's like almost as if you've used a DAW or VST before, you'll very quickly understand how things work. It's incredibly visual. Everything revolves around almost one screen, and it's kind of like drops down these things, and kind of everything is you're able to minimize and stuff like that. So whereas Falcon has lots of different screens and lots of different menus, so you can really dive in there and get maybe too advanced than the average person needs. But I think if you're looking for that kind of thing, then obviously it's still a good option. So first thing I want to kind of look at, let me just have a look quick if there's any questions here that I've missed. To explain how PP works, it's best to start with the tutorial presets from the factory sound bank. Okay, cool. We'll do that. I've actually also got a whole list. I kind of lied. This isn't my first look at Faceplant. This is kind of like our first look. I've kind of been playing with it for the last few days. So I do have a gist of what's going on here. And I've prepared quite a few sort of talking points. So what I'll do is quickly just run through the comments and see if I've missed anything. And we'll dive into some of these factory presets as Navi says. Cool, I don't think I've missed anything too serious. It's half the experience. Well, the thing is, that's like when I first dived into it, I didn't even kind of know what was going on. When I dive into stuff, I kind of like to not use too many tutorials and stuff like that. I try to stay away from watching too many videos on this, although I won't lie, I have been following it for quite a while. There was a few other guys who posted some of the beta stuff, and almost instantly fell in love with it. Okay, so it says the LFO can be used to create arpeggiators. Yeah, I've done a tutorial on that in Serum. Detuning oscillators using the sense will cause beating at frequencies that depends on the played note. Okay, yeah. Macro knobs to explore different kinds of modulations. Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess this is kind of stuff that if you guys are opening the plugin for the first time, it's going to be a sort of empty patch. So to learn how to kind of root things and to learn a little bit about, more advanced sound design, these are pretty cool patches, but most of these I would say I've kind of already covered the basics for myself. I might be wrong, but I kind of wanted to first address something, because when I first posted, I actually wrote an article about this for this online publication that I write articles for. And when I first released the article, there was quite a few guys that were addressing the issue of the price, sort of including the effects and excluding the effects. I can read your chats. I don't know what you mean. So I've lost my train of thought now. So basically, one thing I kind of wanted to explain is that, you don't necessarily have to go for the full bundle with all the effects. Obviously, it's going to be, it's going to give you everything in terms of like more advanced sound design stuff. But even just the generators and modulators section alone in this plugin way expands stuff that I've seen in plugins before, for a couple of reasons, and I kind of want to dive into them and show you guys. So how it works is you've kind of got this blank sort of palette, as I said, when you start, and you can load up either a generator or an effect or a group or a utility, sorry. So how it works is the analog is obviously like kind of analog modeled oscillators, sine waves, saw waves, all that kind of thing. Wavetable has got quite interesting basic shapes and that kind of stuff as well. I'm going to dive into Wavetable a little bit later because there's some incredibly... I haven't actually seen any of the UVI mini games. Maybe I should check those out. Wavetable is an incredibly awesome Wavetable editor and designer as well, which I want to dive into a little bit later. But just to kind of show you guys how sort of out of the box this plugin is, I want to load up a couple of analog oscillators and just show you the kind of idea about why I think just the generators and modulator section alone is way worth it. So let's just, for example, start up with 2 sine waves. I'm sure you guys know what sine waves are for now. And you'll notice as you hover over each of these kind of sections or each of these generators, a little green thing pops up here. So out and about, there it says, buying the whole package is very steep for SA people. Yeah, so in some places, because of the exchange and stuff like that, no, I do agree. It can be pretty expensive. But the cool thing is that you don't have to buy it in one package. You can add on these snap-ins as you go. And like I'm saying now, even just this kind of generator section, the way that they've kind of designed the sort of cross-modulations and stuff, it's incredible. You can get some really out-of-this-world sounds by just routing these things kind of internally. So, like I was saying, you've got these kind of green arrows that pop up when you hover over these generators. And what that allows you to do is send the audio rate modulation from one of the generators to another generator, or from one of the groups or utilities or effects or anything like that, to all sorts of stuff, from amplitude modulation, linear and exponential frequency modulation, as well as phase modulation. So you can already see like how crazy you can get by just using 2 generators. So let me actually just make some audio examples here so you can kind of get what I'm talking about. So like that's just like the phase modulation. So now, you can also, for example, route FM and exponential FM and amplitude modulation and kind of stack them on top of each other. You're not limited to a single sort of cross modulation or warp mode or something like that. So we could like, what have I done now? So we could open this guy up again and, for example, like do... this is the other cool thing, is you get like a real-time oscilloscope readout of what's happening with the actual waveform. So now what I've done is I've kind of reverse frequency modulated it while I'm phase modulating it, and I see it's kind of like doing the opposite in the waveform. So what I'm doing is kind of pointless. So let me try with the other type of frequency modulation. Okay, so obviously that's just like extreme examples. So let's just see, have I missed anything in the comments here? Falcon is definitely deeper. You can build your own synths in Falcon if you know Lua scripting language. I have all the other plugins from KiloHearts, so I just have to upgrade on Friday. Yeah, so like I was saying, I think they're very different. So I'm super glad that I've actually got both. So I've actually done a tutorial on physical modeling synthesis in Falcon, and I think that kind of shows off one of the real sort of power sort of modules inside Falcon that I think sets that synth apart from a lot of the other plugins on the market. Oh god, a new VST again. Goodbye money. Well, I think this one it's truly different to a lot of the other stuff, and I'm hopefully going to try outline that in this video. It's one of the last synths I've been waiting for before stopping on synth purchases and focusing on utilities. Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure about a sale anytime soon, but like I was saying, you can buy just the sort of basic package that comes with a couple of these snap-in modules, but you can also go for a subscription to see if it's worthwhile. And you know, I think when you pay for the $10 a month subscription, you get access to the entire full bundle. That's everything that I'll be trying to show off within this one video. But the snap-ins are just extra effects. The generators and the modulators are still the same from the sort of the starter bundle. Okay, so let's say, for example, we want to effect this signal before sending it out as a sort of cross-modulation and stuff. So John Doe says, can I hear it, please? Well, it's just sine waves at the moment, but I actually had pretty cool sound going on, phase modulating. I had the one phase modulating the other one. So it's obviously like a basic sound, but I mean that with like a bit of filter, with a bit of delay, and that's like a bread and butter Psytrance sound, you know? So what I wanted to get to is these effects and stuff that are within the generator section. So what this allows you to do is distort this signal before using it as cross-modulation, or for like the phase and for the FM and stuff like that. So this is super cool. I believe it's similar to, I think it sounds a bit better, but it's similar to that kind of tutorial in Thorn where you can kind of stack those FM and phase modulations, and you get a very similar kind of distorted waveform before using it as a modulator. So this is, like I said, I mean, I'm not trying to make anything musical here. I'm trying to just push things a little bit out of kind of my sort of comfort zone by doing weird things. But I think that's the sort of beauty of this plugin, is you don't have to do much to try these new things, you know. like distort a frequency modulation source or something like that. I think that's what really stands out about this. So one thing I also picked up is you can group these guys and sort of mix two signals and then send them as a modulator using these group functions or the mix. But this is something really cool that I picked up. I was trying to think, how do you modulate this phase modulation amount? So let's say, for example, load up one of these random modules and sync it. And here what we can do is we can route this little green guy to here and then modulate this level, right, using a random modulation source. And then let's say use this guy as the phase modulation. Okay, so to set it to unipolar or bipolar, etc., it would be over here. And I think I was kind of going too far into the negative range there, so it was creating clips and stuff. So we could like stack it again, create another one of these aux things, another random, and then modulate this amount that's being sent. It's like the amount of sort of possibilities, even just like opening the thing and playing around with it, that I've tried to kind of pen down onto paper, like what sort of sound design tutorials could I do with this? It's just mind-blowing. So wait, let's see if I've missed anything in the comments here. What I'll do is I'm going to... I've actually got this track from last week's stream loaded up here. I will load one long note and let it random stuff while I read through the comments for a bit. I'm actually going to mute all these serum things that I had. And I think this track was in A. So let's see. What am I doing? So it looks like we've got some more people from, I think either sound designers or people from KiloHearts actually in the chat. That's so awesome. Thanks for joining us, guys. And also thanks, Collective Intelligence. Thanks for joining my stream. So they're saying there's a Discord for Phase Plant, or I think just for KHS in general. So if anyone wants to join that for ideas and stuff, you should check that out. There's also a second way to modulate a mount without the need of an aux. There is a yellow mod target next to green when you use the orange one from the mod section. Haha, I didn't actually pick that up yet. Haha, okay, that's cool. That's very cool. I didn't actually pick that up yet. Thanks, that's a little bit extra. But I think just having both is still, really cool, because now you can still do like these sort of interpatch modulations, like based on other modulations and stuff like that within the patch and stuff. You can use this as routing as well as modulation. It's fantastic. See, what did I miss here? Yeah, so far it looks like you can only automate the 8 parameters, but the LFOs, the randoms, and like everything is like so well thought out in terms of the modulations that I don't think you're going to need more than 8 macros to get some pretty intense stuff going. I mean, I've like really tried to push it to its absolute boundaries just in testing it and playing around with it, and I haven't found myself needing more than like 4 or 5. But yeah, you'll see. I'll get into the LFOs a little bit later. Okay, so let's just get back to this. Another cool thing is you can like just sort of distort the waveform a bit just using like the level by boosting it to like 200%. Actually don't know if it distorts it, but it just makes these, like if you're doing phase modulation and frequency modulation and stuff, it makes it like a lot more apparent. So you can kind of mix the amount as well as like the boost or something like that. So like, yeah, it's sounding super deep, but that's just like one sound almost, like one source sound and a modulator and various of these random things. And it's just due to like this intermodulation patching and a simple delay that gives it that kind of really deep, always changing kind of sound. I just want to solo it for you guys so you can hear it like from my side. Like... So here's like one of the like real kind of strengths in this is that it's got this kind of, everything kind of drops down. So you can now we've got this like cool thing going. We can just hide everything, hide everything that we're doing so far, and kind of start afresh. Like what more stuff can we add to this? And just thinking about it, I'm thinking you can also modulate the delay when you set the effects lane to poly. The random modulation will be also polyrandom. That's cool. Yeah, I often like to modulate delays, but I think like for now I'm kind of like trying to focus on like this group section, this generator section, and the kind of like more advanced modulations and stuff, because I think, at least I know that a lot of my followers are probably going to start with the like basic version with a couple of effects, and they'll probably end up choosing like the effects that best suit what they want. So my idea is to kind of focus on like how powerful this like section is here. Obviously, like the effects are still like mind-blowing. You can only imagine. But yeah, I'm kind of like, I think here what I also want to show everyone is this trance gate that's built in here. This is really cool to have something like this like built within a plugin. So it's also completely drag and drop and sort of modular in terms of like how the effects and stuff are laid out. So and it's similar in terms of like this the oscillators themselves. So say for example we wanted to add a second oscillator to this kind of like group over here. We would add like another one and then just drag it in here, and then it automatically routes these, mixes it, and sends it to this kind of like out module that it's automatically set up here. So I don't actually want to do this for this patch, but I just kind of wanted to get that out of the way. So everything's kind of designed around this incredibly easy to use drag and drop kind of system. I think if anyone's coming from like Ableton or Bitwig, it's going to be so easy to pick up, and it'll probably accelerate sound design and probably accelerate just like the sort of, trying things new, because, not a lot of plugins have the ability to kind of just, move the oscillators around and send the output into the input of the other one, and, very modular mindset to this. And the fact that it's, it's super intuitive coming from a DAW's point of view. Obviously there are like incredibly vast modular softwares out there like VCV Rack and all this stuff, but the fact that it almost acts and looks like a modern DAW, I think that's a huge plus. But it's got the capabilities of like a really vast modular environment. It's absolutely genius, and it's the small things. It's like. I'm going to try get to them. I mean, geez, I've noticed here I'm like really dragging on. I've just basically started a couple of the ideas that I wanted to chat about. But yeah, it's absolutely genius. So we're going to get onto the wavetables and stuff shortly. So I just want to show you guys this trance gate, how cool it is that they've actually got an envelope built into the trance gate, so that you can kind of shape the amount of curve on each hit. Check this out. My computer just started acting strange for a sec, so if everything just turns off, like, I apologize. So check this out. We could set, for example, a random... If you guys are tuning in and you haven't seen my videos before, you'll know that like random modulations are my thing. I absolutely love them. I find it's an awesome way to kind of collaborate with the box. You're giving the machine your ideas, and it's randomly giving you ideas. And it's like, oh, that's cool. Let's keep that. Oh, that's cool. And it's also a nice way of creating a very sort of ambient sound over a long period of time. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to send this random modulation to this sustain over here. And that's going to sort of open and close the envelope of the trance gate randomly. Check this out. And maybe a little bit to the decay, just to kind of open that a bit as well. Check this out. This is really cool. So, we're going to get into the wavetable shortly. Let me just see if I've missed any comments here. So there's a question there. John Doe is asking, does the subscription include all the modules? I believe with a $10 subscription, you get the sort of full package. So it's everything, and I think including new ones when they come out or something. I might be wrong, but there was some chat in the comments about that earlier from the official source, and I will post a link as soon as I'm done streaming. I'll post a link to the website where you can check it out, but I'm pretty sure you get the entire package if you do the subscription. But then if you buy the package, you can also add them on. Like if you buy the entry package, you can also add them on as you go. Oh, my throat's getting dry. I need to get a refill, guys. I'm gonna let this loop for a bit. I'll be back in a sec. think one of these randoms might not be set to the clock. If you hear a weird noise, also just got a sweet because my throat's a bit scratchy. So did I miss any comments here? Wonder what that sound like with a bass. Wonder what would what sound like with the bass. Because I actually did make a bass with this and it sounded freaking awesome, and I actually want to show you guys why. A little trick that actually a friend of mine showed me with one of the built-in wavetables, but it's actually kind of similar to a trick that I've done in a previous tutorial of mine, but I'm not going to do it on this patch here. What I actually am going to do though is, let me just save this and I'll just upload it to any of my Patreons, for any of my $5 Patreons who do choose to buy it. I'll call this stream 1. I might like rename them to more sensible stuff afterwards. So let's just start a fresh patch here. I want to show you guys a few things about the wavetable. So first up, the editor is incredibly advanced. It's got a couple of like sort of modes in which you can draw custom wavetables. You can either like draw it in like that, or it's got like node based stuff, or you know, I still haven't figured out exactly all the shortcuts and stuff. I kind of just want to show you guys, you know, a quick overview. It's also got these harmonics based or I think FFT based editing. And each one you've got control. I think this is over the phase of the sound. I may be wrong. It's crazy. Anyway, so I'm not going to dive too deep into this. I'm just wanted to show you guys how crazy you can get with the actual wavetables with the advanced editor. You can also add your own user folders here, so you don't have to make sure that you sort of drag and drop into the correct folders as well. And you can import your own wavetables pretty easily. Actually, it's back in this menu over here. File, load wavetable. And these are actually some wavetables from my most recent Serum bank. Yeah, this one's pretty cool. So as far as like most of the stuff like I've tried, it seems to load most of the wavetables from other synths and stuff pretty easily without any editing and stuff required. So that's pretty cool. So also, is there anything here? You could show some audio rate modulation. Yes, so hold on, you'll probably want to check what I did with those analog oscillators, because it was a very kind of modular type of routing that you're able to do. You can kind of stack various oscillators, group them together, mix them, and then send them as audio rate modulation to another source. But maybe that's what I'll do with a wavetable quickly, just to kind of show you guys how awesome this sounds, even with using stuff like complex waveforms as stuff like FM or phase modulation and stuff like that. No, phase 4 I don't think can load wavetables. So let's put a basic sine back into the first group. I just love this, just drag and drop everything. So user friendly. So what we want to do is let's actually mix this with another analog source, like a triangle or something. And then let's use the mix utility. So as you can see here, what's happening is, oh wait, no. Let's just send this. I got confused there. I don't know what I'm doing. I might have to create a new group. Yeah, and then analog, triangle, and then a mixer. And let's send this as like the phase modulation, for example. So we can also like cross-modulate these ones in between each other, the ones that are then mixing and sending as modulation to this one. So let's do like a FM on these guys, for example. Let's do something like this. Yo, that is awesome. Okay, let's put an LFO on that. And then this is also going to give us a quick idea, a way of showing how awesome this LFO is as well. So what we want to do is pop this open, and like the handy commenter showed us earlier, we've got this amount over here. Oh, it sounds awesome. Okay, so can you do something with Splice EQ or the Carve EQ? Yeah, I'll show you guys the EQs in a moment. You can even deep cross-modulate to enter the circuit bending territory. In short, everything can modulate everything while it's modulating everything. Yeah, it was so crazy. You can get to like, complete noise and then, modulate from something musical to noise, which is pretty awesome. Not many plugins can easily just, expand into that crazy territory and then go back to normalness again. Anyway, so what I wanted to do here is let's have a look at some of these filters. Now that we've got a cool sort of full frequency source sound going. So there are two ways of using the filters. You can either use filters as like generators, like here in this section. So we could put the filter here and then drag it over here. And then this gives us the ability to like filter audio signals before using them as modulations and stuff like that. But it also gives us the ability to kind of, I believe, modulate these with audio rate modulation, like the cutoff and all sorts of stuff like that. So let's use this triangle on that cutoff. Yeah, that is awesome. Okay, so the LFO editor has its own little pop-out window. Somebody say amen. So here you've actually got a couple of advanced editing tools. You can also change the axis to insane amounts. So if you've seen my previous tutorials, I do quite a lot of stepped editing with these guys, and you've either got a kind of curve, or just by putting in a block and moving it there, you can quickly create go between stepped and curved. So that's really cool. I think these guys really thought of everything. It's quite evident that the guys who made this plugin used almost every other plugin on the market, and then they were like, what are those, what is the one thing that could benefit all of those? And they meticulously put them in one by one. You've also got grid snapping off, which you can then do over here like this. So I think that's pretty much it for the LFOs. But the fact that it's a whole other screen that pops up that's resizable, it's very, very cool. You've got various other you've got various other controls, one-shot, retrigger, all that kind of stuff, but I'm sure we all know what that kind of stuff does now. But let's just kind of play around with this and check out some more comments. I think I read in either a forum or something that they are planning on adding the ability, I think, to save LFO shapes. I don't know if you can actually do it yet. It's kind of embedded within the actual preset. And also another thing, there's no plus minus to cycle through the different wavetables. But I believe there's another I believe that's also coming in a future update. I may be wrong, but in the meantime, there is a pretty cool feature. You can actually use the arrow keys on the keyboard to cycle through them, and if you're just hovering over it, it will load it up, but not actually load it up. So you can check, how does it sound? Oh no, it's not as good as the one I had. Cancel that, and it goes back to the one you had before. So I think that's something that's really special. A lot of the time when you're cycling through these things, you find something and you're not sure, did it sound better than the one you had before or worse? But it's too late because you've already done that, So it looks like the snap-ins here have they've got a little drop-in here where you can save the actual presets for each snap-in. But I'm not sure if that same has been implemented for the actual modulations themselves. To disable keyboard follow on the modulator, set harmonics to 0, and then use shift to set the static modulator speed. You can use them as audio rate LFO that way, or as wave shape. Oh, that's clever. Yeah, so okay, that makes sense. So if you set the harmonic, so the harmonic is obviously a multiplier of whatever the key is. So if it's at 0, then it's not getting key tracked. But I think in this example, when it went high, that sort of, the high notes sounded pretty good with the modulation. It's just the low is a bit bum, I think. But that is a cool tip to note, that oscillators can be LFOs. So obviously, like wavetable shapes and these things can be used as LFOs if they're just tuned low enough, which is really cool. Okay, so let me just check on my list of things that I wanted to talk about while I play through this a bit. Okay, so I'm actually going to save this one as well. Give some love for my Patreons. Call this one Stream 2. Hey, there's this flippin' fly here that won't leave me alone. Okay, so is this better than Serum? I don't like to compare plugins because I believe, it's like a tool. One photographer will tell you this camera is the best, and another photographer will tell you this camera is the best. But at the end of the day, they're both making really good photos. I think it's whatever gets you closest to what you want the quickest, and whatever inspires you with new ideas the most is the best tool to use. I kind of like to use everything because it gives me new ideas on how I can, for example, apply that to like my hardware synths or that kind of stuff. So I like to experiment and try everything. Also, it shows you guys the sort of strengths and weaknesses of a lot of the plugins that are available. But I'd say from what I've seen so far, it's got a lot of plus sides, and it looks like they definitely used Serum as a kind of, what's the word? They kind of used Serum as a, as an example of how to, of what a really good plugin is, and how visual plugins generally are more successful, especially for newcomers, because you can quickly see what's happening with the sound and stuff like that. And I think that's why Serum became so popular with YouTube tutorials and stuff, is because you could quickly and easily show somebody what is happening with the sound. And I think that's why this guy is going to be even more so, because they took it even one step further. I wouldn't compare it to Serum because Serum is just a wavetable subtractive, whereas this has got the sort of analog modeled oscillators. It's a lot more of a modular environment. The sampler is a lot more usable for musical applications. I'm actually going to get to the sampler right now. So, yeah. Do you recommend subscription or fixed price? I guess that's up to you. The subscription, I'd maybe recommend getting the subscription for a couple of months and seeing how many of these snap-ins you need and which ones, because the subscription gives you the full service, like everything in the plugin. So it might be good to check, use the subscription to see, like, does the plugin suit you? What snap-ins do you use the most? And then use that to kind of gauge which actual, which license to then buy, Captain Fishbar. I don't know, man. After Faceplant and after Falcon, I don't think I'll be needing Massive X anytime soon, but we'll see. We'll see when it comes out. But yeah, I think I'm sorted on the wavetable subtractive synthesis front. Anyway, let's move on to the sampler. So, if you've seen a couple of my videos on Serum so far, I like to use the sampler to create like these kind of really psychedelic kind of percussive sounds. And I've actually used, I kind of used inspiration from Tristan's psychedelic drums tutorial that he's also got on YouTube. And the idea was to kind of take a drum sample and then, you know, randomize the pitch of that drum sample. So a couple of things that I've noticed are really cool about this guy. Is you've got this sort of looper, and you can modulate the start and end points. So this gives you the ability to create these kind of like glitchy drum sounds. Pretty crazy. So let's randomize that. We actually want to go backwards, so it like closes the gap. That's the one. So here, what we want to do is just put in a whole bunch of 16th notes. Are these... the dreads of using small windows when you're streaming everything on one screen. Okay, it's happening, people. Yeah, it's got an internal dog barking oscillator built in. Okay, so now that we've got that craziness going, we can modulate like the pitch or something like that. We can either do it with like the hertz or like to scale, but because it's random, we might as well just do it like 2 hertz, I guess. So let me just see, did I miss something there? Just add disperser snapping effects for the instant goodness. I was trying to figure out what it was actually doing the other days, and I couldn't quite figure out exactly what it was doing. So I didn't want to use it in case somebody was asking in the comments. So, but I'm gonna try show it, but I'm not gonna explain it too much because I don't understand it yet. Dash, nice. I've been trying to make that sound. Well, there we go. You can easily make it with a sampler module. It's really, really cool. Did you pan it? Yeah. So the second random over here is modulating the pan. And I believe it's bipolar, so it goes like left or right. And then I put a comb filter on here, and I want to put a LFO onto this comb filter. And then we're going to try out this disperser. Oops. So apparently disperser, thanks to Navi, he's saying disperser is an all-pass filter. So I guess it's probably similar to something like wider. But I guess I'm using like a lot of panning effects and a comb filter. So I'm not sure if you guys were hearing that like weird kind of phase thing that happened just now. So I think it's because there was a lot of comb filtering and phasing happening already. Just turn this off here. I'll try it with a kind of more normal sound just now. But what I wanted to outline was the ability to route multiple of these kind of groups to different effects lanes. So say, for example, we've got this kind of crazy drum sound going on here. That's all kind of based on randomization. We could maybe make a synth sound as well that's going to be kind of less random, and maybe we don't want the comb filter on that sound because the comb filter is kind of also creating a bit of that randomness. We might want something like a trance gate or something on the synth sound. So what we can do is we can create a new group, and let's say, for example, load up an analog just for this example, and let's click output. So this then creates like another one of these sort of output envelope kind of modules, and this then gives you the ability to route this to any one of these other lanes, for example lane 2. So here we can slap on the trance gate, and now the comb filter is obviously not going to affect the synth sound, and vice versa. So we've got the ability to kind of split up these groups into various effects lanes, which I think is hugely powerful. And also the fact that it's kind of all visible from one screen. Oh, it was behind the chat. It was all visible from one screen, not for you guys at the moment. But the fact that it's kind of all here and all very easy to access, it's all drop down stuff. It's super, super intuitive. So disperser is one or more all-pass filters that let all frequencies through, but it rotates the phase on frequencies over the cutoff more than anything below. Okay, so maybe we can try that with this kind of more synthy sound over here. Let's try the disperser on that. Okay, I kind of hear it. Um, it's subtle, but I think it would be really cool to create these like really weird sounds if it were modulated. I wonder if it can be. Um, ha, ha. That's cool. It's gonna create some weird sounds and bass sounds. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Um, yeah, I think when I was first looking at it, I was thinking effect as opposed to kind of like mixing tool, which I think its kind of idea is. So I was like listening for something drastic. I didn't realize it was an all-pass filter. I guess I should have read the manual, but yeah. So it sounds like it's got a similar character, but a lot more tweakable than something like um, wider. Yeah, I think with something like that, it's not really it's more of a kind of mixing tool as opposed to like a effect. Trying to like I was looking at it when I first opened it up. So I was looking for something drastic, and I think that's why it didn't come through. But I was just trying to modulate it there just to see like what would happen. But it's not something I think you would traditionally modulate. So I guess that's okay if it does click. But I do use wider almost all the time on all my synths in most of my tutorials. So it probably will end up um, on the end of my chain on most of my synths and stuff. Okay, yeah, you can actually change them. That's cool. That's cool. So what else did I have lined up here? Okay, cool. So one thing I wanted to show you guys. So say, for example, we've split up these sources now into two lanes. We've got like this crazy percussive thing going through the comb filter, and then the kind of saw lead through the reverb. They're obviously both going into... actually, here I've got this set to go into lane 2, so that was actually going through the reverb as well. But however, we can split them up so that they both then end up in lane 3. We can compress them. We can maybe put disperser on like the entire channel or something. So the effects section is incredibly modular, and you've got these kind of 3 racks, which is really cool. But I believe you've also got the ability to kind of mid-side process in between these. I'm not going to attempt that because I haven't tried it yet. I'm not sure exactly how to set it up yet, so I'll probably do some more tutorials getting into the more advanced like effects processing of the plugin. But for now, I wanted to show you guys that like the sampler can also be used as like an audio rate modulation source. So you could use the sampler to FM this lead sound, for example. And all sorts of crazy things are going to happen because the sampler is currently doing crazy things. But, you know, just an example of like the way that they've kind of thought out of the box here. It's pretty crazy. Okay, we're going into crazy territory there. Cool. I think I've covered most of the things that I wanted to cover in the generator section. I don't know if I'm going to save this patch. Actually, you know, just in case somebody wants it. There's always somebody that finds inspiration in the madness. Stream 3. And we are going to move on to looking, focusing more on the modulators and stuff like that, and some of the cool things that make that special. Then I'm going to focus in on some of the more, like some of the effects and stuff like that that are built in here. So I must actually just go to the bathroom quick. I will leave this on loop for a sec. That's pretty cool. I'm actually going to render that. That's a pretty cool little percussion loop. I think that could fit into this track. Just while working on some other sounds and stuff like that. Okay, come now, render. Okay. Okay, so let's clear the sky and let's have a look at some of these more advanced kind of modulations and stuff. So just trying to think how I can approach these. Okay, traditional like envelopes, obviously I'm sure we all know what those are. So the cool thing is like there's filters, like I was saying, in the generator section, as well as filters in the effects section. So you can create like stacked kind of stacked patches with different waveforms going through like different style filters, either like within the generator section or within the effects section. It's cool that it's kind of like a blank canvas and it makes it kind of up to you, depending on how you kind of want to route the sounds in at the outcome. So it's quite flexible in that regard. So you've got these utilities modules, and what these do is it's kind of like maths. So it kind of like allows you to send multiple modulations and change them and stuff within the patch, and then send them to sort of one destination, as well as the ability to kind of I think Zebra has similar stuff with these min and max. I haven't used Zebra in many years, so I may be wrong. So let's say, for example, we've got like an LFO and an envelope, and we want to multiply them and send them to like the filter. So let's open up an envelope, an LFO, and let's send this guy over here, and this guy over here, and then let's just cancel this modulation. I think I've done it the wrong way around. Yeah, let me try the LFO the other way. Oh, no, wait, it's multiplying. That would be the same. I'm being silly here. Did I do that? Oh, it's re-triggering. Haha. Okay. New mistake. So then let's grab like another LFO, set re-trigger off on this guy, change it to like a random speed, and send this to the other input here. So I believe what the max does is it will take the maximum value from both inputs and it'll spit that out to the output. So we could, for example, send that to like internal like routing of the modulations back to the decay or something. That sounds good. Yeah, if it's just that just doesn't like look awesome and sound awesome at the same time, then I don't know. I don't know what does. So let's modulate this with like this like minimum of these two, for example. Which one was that again? So I made like quite a few sort of routing mistakes there. I'm going to pretend that it was on purpose so that I could show you how easy it was to kind of find those mistakes and sort of trace back and quickly fix them. Because you can quickly see which modulations are sending where, sort of at the click of a button. Avi says, good example is to use the ring modulator effects with sideband sub-oscillane as input. But to be honest, I don't even know what that means in terms of the routing and stuff. And I think I've kind of got something similar going here, and it sounds really good. But I'd probably have to look into that for a kind of more focused tutorial. What comments have I missed here? You going to make that Dayden remake or not? I don't know. Just found a guy named Incendiary Man. Okay, not much important. Yeah, Greg Sonic sounding great for what it offers as a synth. Absolutely. And I think for me, it's more of like it's you know, like a synth is a synth, but like this is more of like a sort of. It's much closer to working with a modular synth than most other sort of synths that I've come across, except obviously like VCV Rack. But the thing is, there's again that like really steep learning curve with VCV Rack. The thing with this is it's kind of akin to a Ableton Live-ish kind of workflow, the way that everything kind of like folds down. You know, I think the focus here was on the creativity in terms of like how easy it is to modulate and to route, but even more importantly, the interface and making it very accessible and easy to use. I mean, the fact that Navi, who's a experienced sound designer with Phaseplant, explained something, and I kind of loosely understood it, not really, but I was able to quickly pull it off. I think that's something special. You know, a lot of the time, especially when you pick up a plugin as vast as this, something like Falcon is a good example. It took me like almost a month before I was actually, comfortable enough to actually do a video with it. And I was like learning the manual and, you know, learning everything that it had to offer before I could actually like teach it. Whereas I think this, I've had a couple of hours and I'm diving in and I think I'm getting somewhere. Anyway. Hey, how's it going to anybody who's just joining us now? Okay, so I remember there was a question in the comments on the EQs that are built in. I think it was Neon, and I'm glad he actually says now he's back from work, so he gets to check this out. He said I should look at both the Slice and the Carve EQ, and they're similar, but obviously, like the cool thing about this is it pops up like, again, its own like resizable window for you to do your thing in. So Carve EQ is based around a kind of, I think this is like a nodal thing. I'm not sure if that's the correct word for it. My terminology is always a little bit off. But this seems like more of a kind of curve-based system, whereas Slice EQ, this is more of, I think they call it like a parametric, where it's like uses points. Can you route audio in? Not into the generator section, I believe, but if you don't know KHS like as a company, before Phaseplant, they actually released a plugin called Multipass, which is this effect section as a sort of I think it's multi-band effects processor with multiple channels and everything. But I believe when you buy Phaseplant, you also get like a free plugin with it called Snap Heap. And that's for loading in control. Oh, yes, true. Yeah. Okay, controls to modulate. Okay, I see. When you buy Phaseplant, you get a plugin called Snap Heap, which is like the effects section, which you can load up these like snap-ins that you get, and that you can then add on as you go. On the right hand, in Slice EQ, you have more controls. You can modulate them. Okay. Okay, I see. That's cool. Okay, so this is like a sort of more traditional, like console EQ kind of thing, whereas I think Carve EQ is more of a quick, just want to remove particular sounds. Then I guess this would be just those quick. You can't actually. I'm probably just doing it wrong. Okay. Anyway, so you've got the two window. Yeah. So you've got these two like more advanced EQs, but then you've also got the 3-band EQ. And the cool thing about this is you can actually still change this sort of crossover point over here. Sorry, it's been a long day, so I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. So say, for example, there's like too much low end coming through, like before the filter, we could slap this EQ on and maybe do a similar thing with this kind of like distortion rack that we've done over here. Let's maybe put like one of these more advanced ones, like a slice EQ, and we can play with like the mid-range on that. And the cool thing about this is you can kind of almost mix your sounds internally. I've actually got some tutorials on like more mixing techniques and stuff coming up in the next few weeks. So they'll kind of like dive into like EQ techniques and stuff like that. But the cool thing about this is, say for example, you're making these kind of like multi-timbral sounds. You've got the ability to EQ each one specifically and almost mix it internally within the plugin. Navi is saying, in some patches, I used slice EQ as resonators or notch filters or 96 dB brick wall filters to make physical modeling sounds. Oh, that's actually super clever. I'll definitely check that out. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to play it while I mess with these sounds, because I actually want to show you that you've got a spectrum readout over here as well. So you can like EQ each of these kind of specific lanes and kind of put them into the kind of frequency spectrum that you want, apply effects and stuff individually, which is really, really cool. But then again, you've also got this kind of like master, or like lane 3, which you can use as a master to kind of EQ all the lows out of the synth, or, compress the sounds, or all sorts of stuff like that. All the effects in the filters can be true polyphonic. When you set the effects lane to poly, you really should show that on a fresh patch. I'll have to wrap my head around it. You mean in terms of the modulations? I guess, yeah, it would be. Or the unison. Ties into the parameters in slice. So open the filters tab and modulate the cutoff of something with the LFO from phase plant. Okay, let me do that. Timo is saying he fears that this synth is, as a beginner, will be too complicated. I don't believe so. I think it's arguably a little simpler, than some of the plugins on the market at the moment, but it gives you the ability to go more advanced. So if you're just tuning in now, you may want to watch again from the beginning. So I kind of give it a whole breakdown from the basics of the analog oscillators, and build it up from there. So I don't think it's too complicated at all. If you use something like Serum, I think it'll be very easy to learn. Just maybe, I think also, like, I've done some tutorials on some synths on my channel that are actually, maybe not as advanced in terms of the features that they have, but they don't have the sort of intuitive interfaces as this one. So I don't think it's too complicated at all. So ties into the parameters. Okay, cool. So let me open Slice EQ and we can modulate some of these. I think maybe this high one could be pretty cool. So let's add an LFO. Oh, it's actually super sick. You could do some really crazy stuff. The whole screen is dancing. Let's maybe wobble this bottom one a little bit as well with one of these LFOs. We're just taking it to the extreme. Which one was it? Was it this one? What? That's not working. Ugh, oh well, let's just listen to what it sounds like. Okay, so I've been going for almost 2 hours. Wow. I'm going to save this patch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a polyphonic patch trying to utilize the polyphonic effects. I still haven't quite wrapped my head around them, so excuse me if I blabber on for a bit in that regard. And then I'm going to kind of wrap things up with a couple of like my favorite things about the synth so far. And yeah, if there's any questions or whatever, let me know in the comments. I'll probably be wrapping things up pretty soon. Uncle Bud, it looks complex now that you've looked at it now, like stepping in, because we've been, hacking at this ridiculous patch for like 40 minutes. But, from the start, it's like incredibly simple. Like I highly suggest going back to the beginning of the stream and watching the whole thing. It's, in my opinion, it's one of the most simple plugins, looking at it from an intuitive point of view. But it's also one of the most advanced plugins because you can do anything with it, in my opinion. But just the approach is incredibly simple. Okay, so what was I going to do? I was going to save this. Stream 4. Can you start over? Okay, hold on a sec. So now let's clear this patch. We'll probably just do something like a super saw or some clean analog oscillator saw waves, just so we can kind of hear what's happening with the polyphonic nature of this. So I'll probably have to play some keys, I guess. Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. So this is cool. Like, you know, polyphonic modulation can be a bit hard to wrap your head around. But this is the cool thing here. You've actually got a readout of each of these little balls as they're going up and down this little meter over here. So check, as I play a chord, you'll see it adds 3 of those. And the LFO is then timed to each one of those. So we can, for example, play like a chord and put a filter on, and then each filter will be going to a different one of those LFOs. But the KIF thing here, oh, sorry, KIF is a South African word. The awesome thing here is that I can actually see it visually. So it's so much easier for me to explain, or for people to understand actually what's going on in the patch. Anyway, so let's pop the filter on and let's enable poly over here, and then go something like this. I think this should do it automatically. Ah, that's awesome. Wow. Okay, let me go a bit slower. It might be easier to pick it up. Okay, wait, that's super awesome, but let me give it a bit of unison or something. Maybe make it a bit, just a little bit not so vanilla. Maybe like a delay on the end here and a reverb. Go for that big synth sound. Damn, that's crazy. So expressive. Holy crap. Let's give it some velocity. Maybe set that to... wait, this retrigger was on. Damn, retrigger. Speed as well as a bit of that. Let's give some pressure to the cutoff, I think. Maybe take the pressure away from the speed a bit. Why is my MIDI controller no longer sending? What has happened? I think... Oh, there we go. Technical issues. Okay, that's enough noise with that. Poly key tracking. Yeah, see, it's too advanced. It's too advanced, guys. I can't keep going all night. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be doing some more sort of sound design tutorials that are kind of more focused on specific sounds, definitely with this one. So yeah, stay tuned for that. A couple of the kind of key features, like my favorite things about the plugin that I've found so far, is definitely the incredible GUI. So like I've never found something that's so easy to pick up, but I think it's also due to the fact that it's kind of based around a very similar sort of how can I say aesthetic to like Ableton and Max for Live and a lot of the stuff that's already very well known and a lot of us kind of really already know how to use. So that's already a plus. The incredibly vast routing system is another huge pro. The fact that you've got extended macros compared to a lot of the other plugins. So you've got like 8 macros that are visible while you're sweeping through these patches in the more advanced kind of preset menu and stuff, which is very cool. One thing to note though is, like somebody mentioned in the comments earlier, the automation from the DAW at this point in this update, or in the latest version at this point, all your DAW automation goes through one of the macro lanes. So it's obviously due to the fact that there's just so much going on this side of things that I think it's just too much for the DAW to handle if all of it could be available for automation. And I think I mean, I don't really end up automating that much more than like 4 things within the actual DAW with my synths and stuff like that. And often it'll be the stuff that I've already linked to the macros. So that's one of the kind of things to note. But yeah, it's like what's a comment here? Let's just see. I did quite a lot of phase modulation, routing and stuff here in the generators nearer the beginning of the tutorial. I'm trying not to dive too deep into the actual effects because I know there's various different kind of packages. There's various different kind of like packages, so not everyone will have access to the entire kind of like effects bank. So I was kind of trying to more focus on like the kind of generators, the modulations, and some of the more kind of basic effects and stuff. I will definitely be doing more tutorials diving into like the effects and all sorts of stuff. But it's the same effects engine as far as I know, or the actual the snap-ins themselves are actually from KiloHearts' multipass plugin. So you can check this. I mean, various different videos already on each of those effects and stuff. Check the preset physical annihilate. Okay, cool. Let me do that quickly. Let me just save this patch in case one of my duties wants to download this. As crazy as it is. Physical annihilator. I guess that is pluck. It sounds good, eh? Yo, that's the stuff for ambient, eh? Whoa, that's great. Very, very nice preset. Yeah, you actually managed to nail physical modeling on something that's not essentially designed for physical modeling. Great work. So, yeah. As I was saying, yeah, it's just incredibly intuitive, incredibly easy to use. Like the browser system is very, very cool. The fact that you can like preview the wavetables before you loading them up. I think it's fantastic. Oh yes, there was one more thing that I actually wanted to mention before closing up. Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm getting carried away here. It's getting late and I'm getting hungry. Yes, see. There's a lot going on there. So I did a tutorial on using one oscillator to cancel a fundamental of the saw wave on another oscillator. And it looks like they've actually got a wave table here. It was pointed out to me by somebody on Facebook who's also just started using the plugin. I'm not going to say his name because I'm pretty sure it's a fake name, but I might be wrong. If not, smack me in the comments. So here, say for example, this is like a vanilla saw wave. And in the tutorial, I actually did various ones, one with Serum, one with Synth, which attempts to kind of cancel the fundamental sign of the actual saw wave. And it's a pretty complicated process, but it looks like you can just easily do it by using this wavetable. So as you kind of move the sign down, or as you move the wavetable position or the frame down, it kind of removes the first fundamental sine wave of the saw, and as you move it up, it boosts it. So what does this mean? Let's have a quick look at a frequency spectrum. I'm just going to grab the closest one to me at the moment. So watch this kind of lowest fundamental over here. Okay, we're going to have to go lower. So I'm not going to go too deep into the technicalities of that. I'm going to save that for a future tutorial. But it's an incredibly awesome way of either fattening a bass sound that's like kind of lacking on that fundamental, but also completely removing the fundamental and replacing it with your own tone that you can then, say for example, I don't think they used this plugin in that track, but Vinny Vici and Asterix Adana, there's most certainly something happening there where the sort of mid-range and high range is being distorted, and the fundamental sine wave is a clean sine wave coming through. So, yeah, oh, here comes the bass trick. Yeah, so I was actually saving this for a future tutorial with Serum. I was kind of working out this whole complicated thing, but I mean, now that it's in one of the kind of factory presets in Faceplant, it's almost like I have to use this plugin for that tutorial. So I'll probably include like both techniques, but just for those who are watching who are kind of a little bit more advanced, that's really cool trick to use. You could, for example, let's say send this to lane 1 and slap a distortion on here, and then create another group, and let's say sine wave, and we can send this one to lane 2, set both to the to lane 3, so now it gives us the ability to kind of like distort this high and mid sound without destroying the kind of clean subtone, which is really cool. We could do all sorts of crazy techniques. I'm just going to play around here, but you guys will get the picture. So yeah, you guys can see the picture. You can make some pretty sort of experimental kind of bass lines and all sorts of stuff by the fact that you can like split those two. Not only do you have control over like just removing the fundamental very easily or boosting it if you want to, but you can also split them into separate like effects rows and leave the sine wave clean, and distort the mid-range, high range, and then filter it after the whole process, which is really cool. So let me just see here. There's some stuff happening in the comments before I wrap up for the evening. Damn, it's cheaper than Falcon. It is, and I believe it's slightly less of a learning curve. Obviously, they're different. I did kind of go over that a little bit earlier. Um, but I did get a lot of guys, when I first posted my Falcon video, I got a lot of guys complaining that there was like no demo, and the price versus learning curve was quite high. And I think this is like the sort of complete opposite of that. It's incredibly easy to use. They've got various entry packages. You can get a subscription service that'll give you the entire thing that you can pay off. It's not a rent to own, but it's a subscription service that gives you the ability to kind of demo the entire thing, which is very cool. And then choose which modules fit you the best, or at least which of the effects snap-ins suit you the best. Yeah, I think Falcon belongs in its own category. Yeah, it's multi-sampling, articulations, it's scripting, it's granular stuff. It'll always be in a class of its own, I think. But I think this is also something very, very special. I think this is kind of more suited for guys like myself who are more sound designers, who we play more with like routing of things, and I think this is going to suit a lot more of my viewers as well. All presets will work even if you don't have all the snap-ins, including the macros. So all your presets will work even if others don't have the snap-ins. They just can't tweak the missing ones. Yes, that's something that I forgot to mention. One of the really, really cool things about this plugin is you can hear the effects. So say, for example, I make a patch using all of the effects and I load it onto my Patreon or something like that. You don't have to have all these snap-in effects to actually make use or to actually hear that sound. You just can't edit the actual snap-ins. So that's a huge bonus. You don't actually have to buy all the snap-ins. You can just use the presets and stuff, unless you are a more sort of sound designer heavy producer. I think that's pretty much wrapping up a lot of the comments. I think that's pretty much it. I've seen that was the quickest I ever rushed to buy something in my life. Well, I'm glad that I inspired that. I hope you're talking about Phase Plant, because it's definitely worth it, and I'm sure it'll be money well spent, because I'm definitely going to be doing some future tutorials on it. So you're not going to miss out on those for sure. Cool. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If there's anything that I missed or you want me to kind of like explore certain aspects of the plugin in a sort of future more in-depth tutorial, let me know as well. I kind of try to use this to cover most of the bases, but there's obviously the little things like each of the snap-ins. It's such a deep plugin, you almost cannot cover it in a single video. So let me know if there's something that you guys want me to explore much deeper, and I will definitely do so. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to all the guys who are giving me suggestions in the comments. That was really helpful. It got me through a couple of hiccups along the way. So, thank you, Navi. That was awesome. On the preset you have now, play and hold 2-3 notes at once and toggle the poly mode in effects lane. See here the difference between poly distortion. Okay, cool. I'm going to play out with that. Cool, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you hopefully next week. I'll do another stream. I'll do a notification so we can hear what's going on. No, it's not working on this patch. I'm just going to end the stream. I think I've killed all my sound design and creativity for the day. My tummy is grumbling. I'm surprised you guys can't hear that over the mic. See you guys next week. Enjoy it.